Welcome everyone once again to the Devoratorium. My name is Darnay DeVore. Once again, I'm going to be your host. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing the separation of church and state. The separation between church and state. This is perhaps one of the most abused statements discussing in the discussion of Christianity and politics, or even Christianity and the state, the government. But what some of us don't realize is that it's not even part of the Constitution, the separation of church and state. Rather, it's an explanation of the First Amendment to the Constitution. So what we're going to do today, we're going to look at the original statement made by Thomas Jefferson in 1802. He made it to the Danbury Baptist Association. Now, they were complaining to Thomas Jefferson because these Baptist folks happened to settle in a colony that was mostly Calvinist. So they felt like their right to freedom of worship in their Baptist way was being threatened by these Calvinists. They felt like their right to worship in their Baptist traditions was a favor rather than a guaranteed right, as they had come to expect. So they wrote this letter to, they complained to Thomas Jefferson, and he actually wrote them a letter in return. And it said, believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions, I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. This was the original. This is where the separation of church and state first made it into light. All right. Thomas Jefferson was explaining the First Amendment to the Constitution. Remember? Now, let's look at what is the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Understand this clearly. Congress can't make any law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In order to really understand this, we have to understand the context, where these people were coming from, what they had endured, and what they were addressing when they wrote this. So the original intent was to prevent government from establishing or enforcing a state religion. A state religion usually tends to sow the seeds of religious tyranny, which the settlers had just came from England. They had just came from that. Yeah, there was a union between church and state going on, and so if you wanted to be a member of this state, you had to accept the state's laws and the state's religion in whichever way that state interpreted that religion, or their religious leaders interpreted that religion. So if you had a disagreement with the way the religion was being understood or interpreted, then that was a state offense, a state crime. And so that was the religious persecution that they were leaving from when they left England to come and establish America. So when they came to America to establish this was first on their list, the freedom of worship. But in that, they decided to create a wall between church and state. So the state could not come in and tell you what to believe, how to believe it in any way, shape, or form. They couldn't stop you from believing in your faith in any way that you interpreted or saw fit. When people talk about people in office who vote their values or who legislate based on their values, everyone legislates their values. Everyone promotes their values. It's just a matter of what's the origin of those values. Does it come from yourself? Did you make them up? Or is the origin of your values from the Bible itself? That's the only difference. Now, Christians have full freedom to be Christians in this country and whatever stripe of Christianity that they choose. The government has no freedom to infringe or hinder that freedom. Now, that wall that blocks church and state, it blocks government from interfering in churches, in Christianity. It does not block Christians from being involved in government or politics. On the contrary, this country's foundation is faith. Okay? Only a Christian nation allows people to choose their own faith or non-faith. You can do that too. Only a Christian nation allows that because Christianity at its heart, at its source, does not force acceptance. Now, there have been Christian movements that did force acceptance. Okay, that's what they were running from, coming from England, as a matter of fact. The Christianity that they were practicing there was forcing their acceptance. At the heart of it, Christianity does not force acceptance. Does not. Okay, but our freedoms that we enjoy in this country rely on the foundation being Christian. Okay, does that make sense? Let me explain this again. Having a Christian nation means that you can worship any way you want to or not at all. But the freedom to do that rests on the freedom that Christianity offers. All right. So let me give an example. There are other countries who they're not Christian countries. They're secular countries. The government controls the top. So the government can control who you worship, how you worship, all those things. Or if the government if it is a Christian country or a Buddhist country or whatever religion that you want to put in there, then they have the right to decide how you worship, how you believe. There are some Islamic countries that don't allow you to be anything but Islamic. Or if you do have Christian freedoms, they're very limited. They're very limited. They are with permission. They're not a guaranteed right. Okay? So now, sadly enough, with this wall of separation between church and state, not allowing the government to come in and interfere with Christianity, we have seen that even in this country. Okay? We've seen the government try to interfere with Christian teachings, Christian beliefs, Christian churches, Christian policies, just all kinds of things. We've seen that happen in this country. They're trying to reshape Christian values to look more like what they want it to look like. I'll give an example. This is just happened, I think, in 2015. A very high political figure. I won't even mention her name because if I mention her name, you're going to know who it is, and then we're going to get distracted from the point. All right, so I'm not going to mention her name, but this high-profile political figure, she was doing a talk. She took religious beliefs and combined them with deep-seated cultural codes and structural biases, and included religious beliefs in there, tied them on all together, and said they have to change. Okay? They have to change. And now there are government officials or political officials who do this to further their political career, to make things better for everyone. But I'm sorry, this was crossing the line. When this political figure did that, that was crossing the line of government interfering in church. She broke through that wall, or trying to break through that wall, to get what she wanted to have done. And that is to change religious beliefs. I'm sorry. On Judgment Day, when you come face to face with God, and God says, I wrote this in my word, but you decided to do this instead, something different instead. Why? The answer, the excuse will not be, well, the political figure told me I've got to change your word or believe something different than what your word said. No, it's not going to work that way. There is God's word and then there's man's word. I'm going to go with God's word, even if that means giving up my freedom or giving up my life. because God is my life. And no one in politics or out can change that. So make no mistake, I want all of you to understand this. The fall of our country is a direct parallel with the rise of secularism. All right. The separation of church and state. So many are looking at that as if the government or our state can have nothing to do with Christianity. We must wipe out all the signs and symbols of Christianity. We've got to change the words and lyrics to so many of our public songs. We've got to take crosses off of public land. We've got to sanitize our music, our TV shows, everything. So there's not a shred of Christianity or religion anywhere in our society. And then we'll be a full-fledged secular society. Folks, it's not going to work. That's not going to work. And I'll tell you why. Our country was made to be religious. It's based on faith, based on religion. You know who would know? Let's check out a few examples. President John Adams. Here's one of his statements. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Do you get that? Our Constitution was made for religious and moral people. If we're a secular nation, our Constitution doesn't work. It just doesn't work. That means everything is, that's our very foundation. And you know something? The folks out there who are trying to take religion out of schools, off the streets, out of television, out of Hollywood, they know this. They know this. They don't like the Constitution as it is because it gives too much authority to a God that they don't believe in. That was John Adams. Let's look at what George Washington said. He was just finishing up his second term and he was ending his presidency. This is what he said. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. Do we get this? Religion and morality. We gotta have those two for this political prosperity to work. Let's go on and let us with caution indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. What? What? You mean you can't maintain morality without religion? Whatever may be conceded to the influence of refined education on minds of peculiar structure, reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principle. Do we get this, folks? Are we getting this? This is what George Washington said. All right. One of the founding fathers of our country, folks who built this place, they know best how it should be run. And you see religion all through here. You see it all through here, folks. There's no way to escape it. If you try to, this will no longer be America. This will be something different. And I dare say something a whole lot worse. Our country now, we hate each other. We cheat each other. We hurt each other. We are more divided than we are united. Everyone's trying to change the Constitution or just ignore it altogether because it's outdated and it's so racist. No religion, no faith, no country, no freedom. Let me end with this example. Unalienable. You know what unalienable means? It means that unalienable rights means that they cannot be taken away or transferred. Let's look at the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Do you get that? Unalienable rights are endowed by us through who? Our Creator. Let me ask this. If God is not giving us our unalienable rights, the rights that for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if God is not giving us that right, who is? If you say the government, okay, that's fine. Some countries do. It's the government gives you the right to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in their way. Okay? But the same government that gives you those rights, they can also easily take it away. They can take away those rights that they gave too. Who's going to stop them? There's no higher power for you or the government to appeal to other than the government themselves. So who do you appeal to? Hey, I'm a person. I'm a human being too. I have rights. No, you don't. You have what we give you. And what we give, we can also take away. That's a government without God. That is a government without God. Just look around the globe. Look at governments without God and look at how they treat their citizens, how they treat their people. All right. Why do so many people around the world flock to America? Because they want what we have. They want our freedoms. They enjoy our freedoms, the freedoms that we're complaining about. Or they want God. They want Christianity, the same God and Christianity we're trying to get rid of. That's what they're looking for because they're not allowed that in their country where they're coming from. If the government acknowledges the Creator and models itself after the freedom, morality, and love of Christian principles, this is what makes America or any country great. A country modeling itself and acknowledging the Creator and the freedoms that we are given through Him. Only that makes a country great. I know what you're going to say. But Darnay, what about all the evil and slavery, all the horrific things that America has done? You're right. America has done a lot of evil, a lot. But we keep our true north. We got to keep it. Because the more we keep our focus on our God, our Creator that gives us these rights, the better things can be. We take away that true north, we take away that compass, there is no God, or we're going to make Him irrelevant. Guess where we're going to end up? Chasing our own tails in circles because we don't know. We don't know how to treat people, not without God. Not without God. So I want to thank you once again for joining me today on the Divortorium, the separation of church and state. I hope it's more clear to you now than before, and I hope you understand that as much as we can separate church and state, this is a nation of faith. This is a nation of faith, and if we scrub the faith, we will no longer be a nation of freedom. Mark my words. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next video.